What is up, T.O.Gs? If that's not familiar to you and you live in Northern California, that's blue sky up there. Oh man, I should have been paying more attention, but hey, what are you gonna do? But we're here on the bike, having just a super day, trying to stay positive here in just a outright wacky 2020. I mean, this year has just, I mean, if there's one more thing that could go wrong, it will. And so you just got to plug on and be thankful for what you have. Really, that's kind of what it boils down to. And one of the things that I'm so grateful for, so thankful for in my life, is a roof over my head. You know, I'd love to have a house. We live in California, and I was born and raised here, and it's just so freaking expensive to buy a house. So we've been doing our best with trying to save up to move into a home, and that is on the horizon. And actually it's a goal that's not one of those like way out there unrealistic like someday goals. It's not a someday goal. It's right around the corner, and I just kind of got to be grateful for that. But for the time being, you know, we're here in an apartment, and we're just making do with what we got. You know, with 4 people and 2 teenagers, it can get tight for space. And especially, you know, when you've got a bike and you've got 2 cars, well, you've got 2 cars and a pickup truck, and you want to make the smallest footprint in your apartment complex because you want to be a good neighbor, right? Then that's probably the biggest key when you own a motorcycle in an apartment complex, is you want to be a good neighbor, right? Because when you live in your own home, right, you've got the 2 people maybe that live next to you and the person across the street directly from you that kind of might be directly affected by the way you live, or, you know, how messy you are, how loud you are, I guess, how loud your bike might be. But living in an apartment, I mean, you're like wall to wall, right? There's someone above you, there's someone all around you, and where your parking spot's not likely close to where your apartment is. So you've got all these factors, right? So you want to keep your bike safe, you don't want it to get stolen, and you also for God forbid, this was what happened to me, you don't want it to get hit by somebody trying to park in your spot. So we're going to talk about today just a few things that you can do when you live in an apartment complex to be a good neighbor and to keep your bike safe. So the first thing I would say is fork locks. Always fork locks. If you've got a sport bike, for me, I know all I got to do is turn the key all the way over to the left and the forks are locked. It's an easy thing that will deter somebody from just easily rolling your bike out of where it is and into a trailer or into a truck, or just walking it out of there. Fork locks. It's the easiest thing you can do, and that pretty much goes for if you park your bike like in a parking lot, a public parking lot. But really, something smart and just so easy to do for yourself. So one of the things that I do, and you guys don't have to do this, but my bike's pretty loud. So when I roll up, especially, you know, in the summertime, people got their windows open, I will put my bike in neutral as I get close to my spot, and then I'll just turn the engine off and I'll roll right into my spot. And that way I'm not, you know, definitely the biggest thing you can do, right, is to just rev bomb in your apartment complex. That's kind of the last thing you want to do if you want to be a good neighbor. So you want to do your best to stay quiet and to be considerate of your neighbors. Really important things to think about when you own a bike in an apartment complex. Another thing, for us at least, well, because we have 3 other cars besides my bike, is we want to take up as few spaces as possible if we can. You know, especially if like all the apartments are filled in our complex and we want to take even up less space, we'll drop the truck off, because we don't use the truck very often, at my folks' house, and just park it in front of their house, and they're fine with that. And then I always park my bike in front of our car. And so And then we're only taking up 2 spots. And to have 4 vehicles and only take up 2 spots, that's really ideal. You know, if you live in an apartment complex, you know most parking lots are tight. It's hard to find a spot. You know, you want to park close to where your apartment is if you've got a second car. And really it's all about convenience, right? And so I do my best to take up as few spots as possible. It's another deterrent too. Like when my bike's parked and then the car's parked in front of it, it's difficult for one to just see that the bike is there for potential thieves. And then it's hard to get out of there, especially if there's cars parked on both sides of our car. It's really just boxed in, and no one's just gonna roll that bike out of there. So so if our parking spot is this way, I park my bike perpendicular in the spot, and then pull the car all the way up to the bike. Knock on wood, we've never hit the bike with the car, but we get it as close as we can so that we're not sticking out of our spot. And really, that's the ideal way we found. One of the people in my complex actually parks in the kind of area in between the 2 spots. He's got a smaller bike. It's I think it's an R3. But you know, for me, it's like that. Then you're taking up the space in between cars, and people have trouble going in between cars. And for me, that's just something not that I don't feel comfortable with. So the one thing I didn't talk about right off the bat is you want to make sure that having a motorcycle in your apartment complex isn't against your lease or against the apartment complex rules, right? I know that there are definitely apartment complexes that don't allow motorcycles, you know, for a lot of reasons, I'm sure. They're easy to steal and they don't want that liability. The fact that people will rev bomb and just make all this loud noise and to disturb their neighbors, you know, you could do that in a car too, but I think that the temptation to rev bomb on a motorcycle is much greater. But make sure that it's not against the rules to have a motorcycle in your parking lot before you just go out and buy one. For me, it's always best if there's a designated spot to park motorcycles in your complex. That's probably the best case scenario. And then the second best case scenario is to have a covered space, and that's where we can park both my bike and the car in the same spot. The last thing that I want to talk about is something that happened to me, and the lesson that I learned from it happening is that if you've got a bike in your spot, and it's the only thing in your spot, you might want to consider putting up something in your spot to warn people that there is something in that spot, so that someone doesn't try to rush in, you know, because a lot of the times in an apartment complex, people are just dropping off, so they'll drive really fast into a parking spot, and then if your bike's there, it gets hit. And that's what happened to my bike. Probably yeah, he knew that was a move. Anyway, so my bike was hitting its spot, and the person didn't leave a note. They just left it. They didn't even stand the bike back up. It was just there on the ground when I got there, and it ended up being totaled. The cost to repair it was more than the cost of the bike, and so gosh, that was just one of my all-time favorite bikes that I've ever owned. And so that was just the worst possible scenario. I was so disappointed when that happened. So what I ended up doing after that was I put up I built out of a bunch of cheap PVC pipe. You know, you can just go to the store, grab a couple bunch of PVC pipe, and then a bunch of joints, like T-joints, and then caps and stuff. And I made like a big cone, basically, to put behind my bike, so that, or in front, however you want to situate your bike in your spot, to let people know, hey, there's something here. So don't come rushing into this spot and just take out my bike. So that was my genius idea. It only cost me like $10 or $15 to build the cone. I put reflective tape all over it so that it was easy to spot. If you've got a solution that you've used that's similar to what I did there with like a homemade cone, a homemade warning cone to let people know that your bike's there, let me know in the comments. And also, if you live in an apartment complex and there's tips and tricks that you guys know to keep your bike safe and to keep it from not getting stolen, leave those in the comments too. You know, there are things like bike locks, where you can lock your bike up to the like a post that's close by to your parking spot. Especially if you have a covered spot, you can wrap it around one of the posts from the covering. You know, all kinds of little things that people do. But leave it in the comments if you guys have your best practices and your tips and tricks that you use. It'll help me out and it'll help others out to keep our beloved machines safe. Guys, that's all I've got for you today. If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up down there, which is the like button, and if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button. Guys, if you're out there riding, please be safe, and as always, be kind to one another. My name's Eric. I'm that one guy. I am out.